Or I have my headset on now because they're because I have my headset plugged into the computer, but I don't have any external speakers. So then when I play the video back, I can't hear it unless I plug in my headset. But then when I plug my headset in, I'm now switched over to the headset microphone instead of the microphone on my webcam. So I'm testing out to see how that sounds because I'm shooting these videos in short bursts so that it'll be easier for me to upload into Pinnacle Studio because the video I'm making now, I am directly shooting it into my computer using the camera app. And then I'm going to take those files and put them into the timeline of Pinnacle Studio. I have Pinnacle Studio 24. So that's where I'm going to, the software I'm going to use to put my video files in, because this is the first video I'm making, so it's going to be slow because I'm learning as I go. Because I'm going to put it in Pinnacle Studio so it creates a file that's small enough or isn't too enormous, so it makes a good MP4 file that can upload to YouTube. And hopefully the file won't be too large, but I still wanted it to be good enough quality for uploading to YouTube. So what am I going to say next? I mentioned that I have dyspraxia, so I'm doing personal video vlogs on dyspraxia. I found out I had dyspraxia when in 2012. I was born in 1972, started kindergarten in about 1977 and 1978. So between 1978 and 2012, I did not know that I had dyspraxia, or they referred to it as learning disabilities. So every 2 years, I'll get a quickie psychological evaluation from the school district, but they would just say learning disabilities, and they wouldn't tell me too much anything about it. I had to go back and look in the records as an adult to figure out what they were saying. So I went to a clinical psychologist, and I had to pay for it myself. It cost me $1,300 to get a thorough psychological evaluation, and then she write up a report. So then I can use that for getting accommodations if I needed them, or just an official document written by a doctor saying that I have DCD dyspraxia, or because she wrote it down as developmental coordination disorder and used the DSM code from the DSM manual. And then I looked it up on the internet, and then it says dyspraxia, that they use those two words interchangeably. And then I noticed that in the United Kingdom, in England, they're way ahead of the United States. They have a lot more people who have dyspraxia and actually make videos and talk about it. But there's not too many people in the United States. So I thought I'd make a video as someone from the United States, and I live in Wisconsin. That has it because I tried looking for people in the United States, and there's not too many, just a handful. And then otherwise it's parents of children who have dyspraxia that have been diagnosed. But I was looking for the adults that have it. And I think in the United States there are lots of adults who have it but don't know it. Or they describe it as something else. So I probably should describe it a little bit in case someone's watching this who doesn't know what dyspraxia is. So I'll do a quick run through of what dyspraxia is. It is basically a neurological disorder. And you have it from birth. I think the only other way you could get it is if you have brain damage, acquired dyspraxia, or it's like caused by brain damage. And then they have the verbal apraxia or dyspraxia. I've seen people call it verbal dyspraxia or apraxia of speech. So it's kids who have verbal problems like pronunciating, or maybe they don't talk at all. So that's like a category. But I was born with it. Wasn't diagnosed until 2012. And so it is a neurological disorder. And then it affects the brain and the central nervous system. And basically what it is the messages from the brain get muddled, or as it travels from the brain to the rest of the body, it gets distorted or slowed down, or is a degraded nerve signal. So then it can make you uncoordinated, like clumsy, poor motor skills. But it also, with the mind, it doesn't affect intelligence at all, but it does affect the processing speed. Like it slows me down. I talk slower. I have to think about what I'm gonna say. And some days the connection's a little better and I can move a little faster. And then there's other days that I shouldn't even get out of bed, or I'll be like, duh, so slow. It's like moving through sludge. Just to do anything, or to say stuff, put together a thought and speak it. So I have good days and bad days. It affects your processing speed and your short-term memory. So I'm not good at multitasking. Or I can remember what happened many years ago, but I can't remember what happened happened 5 minutes ago, and I cannot remember lists or um, a series of step-by-step instructions. So you could give me a whole list of instructions verbally, and I'll be like, what did you say? It'll go in one ear and out the other. Because besides having DCD, dyspraxia, I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I have dyslexia. And I have dyscalculia. That's trouble like with math and numbers. And that goes hand in hand with my short-term memory and work, or they call it working memory. Like working through a math problem, because you start doing a math problem, and then while you're in the middle of it, you get distracted, and then you're like there. Then you have to come back to the math problem, and then like, poof, it's gone. I don't even know where it left off. So then I'd have to start all over again. So that can make you work really slowly. And I only gotten as far as 5th grade math. Because once I got into pre-algebra and you started replacing letters with numbers instead of numbers and doing those multi-step problems and having to go through the order of operations and blah blah blah. And it's like, once I got that far, I pretty much hit a wall in math. And I also had trouble memorizing multiplication tables. I think I know some of it, but since I don't use multiplication tables, I think I lost a lot of that. Because nowadays, as an adult and with all this technology, I would use a calculator, or my other best friend, let me get it. If I need to do a quick math problem, I have my Kindle tablet, and all I have to do is talk to, I'll say it, Alexa, what is 2 plus 2?
2 plus 2 is 4.
So, if I have any quick math problems, that's what my go-to. Alexa, how many cups are in a gallon?
1 gallon is 16 cups.
And then it shows it. 1 gallon. Oh, I can't. 16 cups. So, in the 80s and 90s, they didn't have that technology. But now, if I get stuck on something, that's what I use. I just grab my Kindle Fire tablet and ask Alexa what a question, and she does most math calculations. Otherwise, I would pull up a calculator on the computer or on my cell phone. Otherwise, on my cell phone, I ask Google questions, and So having dyspraxia, I use technology now. And they have technology now where you can take a picture of a math problem and there's an app that will solve it. But when I was younger, they didn't have that, and they didn't like, or when I was learning multiplication tables using a calculator. But I have accommodations if I had to take a test. I could always use a calculator if I and have like more time. So that's and also what it's like to have dyspraxia is growing up is like your physical part, like gym class, I was way behind. And I was, when I was in first grade, the report card would say I have the physical ability of a 4-year-old. And I did not learn how to tie my shoes until I was in third grade. I was actually pulled out of third grade gym class and had to learn to tie my shoes in occupational therapy because the gym teacher was a jerk. And like in first grade, I couldn't tie my shoes, and then I got into second grade, and we're doing physical fitness testing, and he says, "Did you learn how to tie your shoes?" And I said, "Yeah," because I was scared to tell him I didn't. But then he found out I didn't because I just tucked the shoelaces in my shoe. And then we had physical fitness testing, and the shoelaces came out with doing the running the 50-yard dash. And then he yelled at me in front of the whole class saying, "No one's gonna help you tie your shoe. Nobody help him tie his shoes." And then went home from school that day in tears. And then my mom called the school to complain. And then I got pulled out of gym class in second grade, and instead had occupational therapy and adaptive ed, which is like more one-on-one attention. And I did learn how to ride a bike, but it took me longer and I had lots of accidents with it. But then I only rode a bike until middle school, and then I got away from it again. And I preferred just to walk to school. Because while learning how to ride a bike, I wiped out a lot. I'd hit my parents' pickup truck, or I would go right into the bushes and get all scratched up. And one day, riding home from school, I wiped out in an intersection. This basically tipped over and landed on the street. And then the lady comes out and asks me if I was okay, and then I was like limping home. And then the bikes had good scratches on it from the accidents. And then, or that was just a regular bike. It wasn't a 10 speed, it was just a regular bike you pedaled with one gear type thing. And then, or I had a 10 speed for a while. And then I'm not sure what happened to it, but I stopped. By the time I was in middle school, I stopped riding bikes. And plus, another scare I had is I rode on the back of my sister's bike when she had a paper route. This was back in the 80s, where you have the bike, and then they had the big basket, and where you put the newspapers, and then she'd do the paper route. And then I was riding on the back of the bike while she was pedaling, and then I got my foot caught in the spokes, and like ripped up my ankle. Or then I was limping for a long time with that. And so after that happened, then I basically steered away from bicycles. So then I had that, and then I went to middle school, and then I returned to regular gym class in fourth grade. By then, there was a different teacher. By I think third and fourth grade, I had went back to gym class. By then, I learned how to tie my shoe, and then I had regular gym class plus adapted phy ed. And then I went to middle school, and then again in fifth grade, I was pulled out of regular gym class, and then for fifth grade, I was back, had one-on-one gym class for adapted phy ed, and did not go to regular gym class. And with another kid in my class who also had disabilities, and he had a hole in his heart, so he couldn't exert himself, otherwise he would turn purple. So he was an adapted special phy ed class, or I think they call it PE in England, but in the US we call it like gym class, or phy ed, short for physical education. Then I was in fifth grade and went to middle school. And then by the time I was in eighth grade, I was able to work my way up to regular spelling class, an English class, and reading. Because before then I had those subjects in self-contained LD class with the LD teacher. And then I had social studies and science and the related arts classes like art class, music class, and industrial arts like woodworking type stuff, and home ec, because we were rotated through those classes. And I had social studies in mainstream, regular. But we're divided up according to our reading ability. So I was in the lower class where the reading was um, less. Or usually what we would do in the lower reading classes, read through the chapters in class, and everyone would take turns reading, going around the room. But in the higher reading groups, they did more reading on their own because they had higher reading scores. And then through middle school, I worked my way back in those classes, but in math class, I still remained at a fifth grade math level. Didn't get past pre-algebra, and I was basically that way through now. I'm now 49 years old, and I haven't learned any more math. And